The Fan.
You like that? You like that?
Personal foul. Clipping. This is an old-fashioned ass kicking right here.
And that's a fact.
Just listen.
Now, what did I do wrong?
Good stuff. Time for two more. What in the ham fat is going on with you guys?
Yeah. Pick up the pieces from the weekend and begin 9 to noon. Good morning. Everybody ready now?
Daddy booms in FM.
Hockey, basketball, baseball, Minnesota Vikings defense. But first, the LA Lakers are down 3-0 to the Denver Nuggets. And if they don't win this evening, they'll be eliminated. I'm Dan Patrick. Good morning.
After two overtime winners in consecutive games by Matthew Tkachuk, the Florida Panthers have a terrific shot of participating and winning their Eastern Conference Final Series.
The Dallas Stars have lost 2 overtime games to Las Vegas. If they lose a third, they'll be 1 game from elimination. I'm Dan Patrick.
Job.
9 to noon is in the air on a Monday. Good morning. Paul Allen and they're racing by your side. Mad producer by my side and by our side. And the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Well, if Dallas ain't by their side, they're going to be on beaches soon.
McNabb smacks to the head, into cross the line. Stone to the right. Theodore shooting, save. Rebound is loose. They score! Vegas overtime. Another win for Vegas to take a 2-0 series lead. The Flamingos are on the ice. Vegas strikes just a minute and 12 seconds into the fourth period. And a 2-0 series lead for Vegas.
Golden Knights Radio.
The LA Lakers employ LeBron James and Anthony Davis, 2 of the best players in the history of the NBA. If they lose this evening, they'll be eliminated. I'm Dan Patrick.
Back over to Joker from Murray. He spins in the paint. Kick out three-pointer. Ball game! Denver Nuggets are going to win game number 3 and go up 3-0. They're up by 14 points with 1 minute to go.
Nuggets Radio.
3-0, you say? The Vox has some soccer to him. Hopefully at Ball Arena. We didn't have thousands rush the wood that is hard, only to have people die. Now, the Minnesota Twins are back home to take on the Gigantes this evening. After a week of SoCal sun and fun, we got meatloaf twice. 2 out of 3 was bad.
And the Angels have runners on second and third with nobody out. Infield comes in for Minnesota, bottom of the 7th. And Moniak drives one to the gap in right center field. That's going to get down. That's a base hit. The Angels take the lead. Dice scores. Neto scores. Mickey Moniak, a 2-run double. It's 3-1 Halos in the 7th.
Angels TV.
You lucky suckers. You Anaheimers. You lucky suckers. And the Minnesota Vikings are in full throttle off-season workout mode with the kids and the vets trying to remedy a broken defense with plays like this.
He gets the snap. He wants to throw it. Late rush. He throws it down the field. Intercepted at the 30. 25-20. Minka Fitzpatrick goes into the end zone for the Pittsburgh. Well, we got a marker down on the play, so hold on.
Oh, sweet Marie, what a play by Minka Fitzpatrick.
He broke on the ball right in front of the intended receiver and scampered down the left numbers.
Oh, what a nice job he did.
Oh, sweet Marie, WDVE. It is Steelers Radio.
Nah, it ain't 2018, and a pass from the arm of this guy.
Oh, my God. Kirko, chill.
And you didn't miss anything. The Minnesota Vikings did not sign or make a move for Minka Fitzpatrick over the weekend.
The GM is crazy.
Hey.
The GM is crazy.
Yeah.
The GM is crazy.
Got to believe.
I believe.
Minka Fitzpatrick, currently employed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's where we begin. Because perhaps unveiling the what's next plan with Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, maybe perhaps something we by happenstance tripped onto last week by studying the Miami Dolphins defense. Perhaps that's not the answer. Now, of course, there will be things Flores and the Finns did that will be executed here. And more on that during the course of this long and winding diatribe that will be dispersed during the course of today's 9 to noon presentation. Now, Flores and the Finns did some things that undoubtedly will fit here. Certain times, certain downs and distance. But the proof may be in the Pittsburgh pudding. Like Tapioca TJ. Or Chocolate Swirl Cam Hayward, or Minty Minka for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Couple of things to start this series. Flores' reverence and respect for Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, it's off the charts. It's immense. And a large part of Brian's role with the Pittsburgh Steelers was formulating the defense with coordinator Terrell Austin. Now, the Steelers run a hybrid 3-4 with what's known as floaters. It's a hybrid 3-4 with what's known as floaters. When you think floaters and the National Football League, the perhaps most significant floater to float in the history of floating would be a former Steeler named Troy Polamalu, where he plays safety, he plays nickel as a corner, plays a little linebacker, he has the ability and he has the scholarly approach to be able to roam the turf or roam the field in the best interest of his football team. Now that's a floater. So old schoolers thinking 4-3 or 3-4 defense. 4-3. 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. 3-4. 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers. Last season, it would have looked like 99 on one side, feigning or coming, and Zadarius Smith on the other side, feigning blitz, maybe navigating his way to the center of the line and mugging, as we say in the business, the A-gaps, or coming from the outside. Those are the looks of standard 4-3 and 3-4 defenses. Now, when unveiling the what's next plan for Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings defense, this time last year, we went through about 20 years of some of the best 3-4 defenses to grace the National Football League. And in doing so, we learned a lot about what I would say would be preferred size of defensive ends in a 3-4 and linebackers specifically on the inside in a 3-4. Not a lot of it meshed with what the Minnesota Vikings wanted to do. And in running a true 3-4 defense about 28% of the time last year, the size or lack thereof of certain defensive ends and or inside linebackers played into, at least in my opinion, some of the at times shoddy nature of the way things were executed with a defense that became broken and needs to be improved this year, perhaps with a hybrid 3-4 and floaters, kind of what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. The floaters here, the initial thought would be those kind of floating around, and they're on their metaphorical clouds, and you think they're in one spot and they end up in another spot. Harrison Smith has been terrific at that all of his career. I believe Jay Ward, the rookie from LSU, I believe he fits that mold. I believe Cam Bynum, perhaps a third safety here, perhaps a second safety here, but Cam Bynum fits that role quite well. Not exactly sure at this stage for Lewis Seen. The hybrid 3-4 with floaters, players lurking and looming and looking to cause trouble. Now, last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you heard a Minkah Fitzpatrick pick six. Young Minkah had 6 interceptions last season, and that one got to the house. The question, how did it happen? That is a key part of this floater-related equation, because I believe that's coming. I believe that's coming with this defense. Fitzpatrick's role here would be secured by the likes of, it's very difficult to define what roles individuals in the secondary would have with compared to somebody like Minkah Fitzpatrick in the way he's used, or Troy Polamalu back in the day, the floater of all floaters ever to float. Harrison Smith again comes to mind. Jay Ward comes to mind, but there are going to be more. There are going to be linebackers doing things that we haven't seen, and that all leads to just a bevy of players and coaches for the Minnesota Vikings supremely excited to run this defense this year, because it's not like they haven't seen it, but they haven't, they specifically the veterans, they haven't run it. The level of excitement of meshing this in the offseason, that's the A topic right now, 9 to noon. Your Tractor Talkback leader. Don't forget free iHeartRadio app. And courtesy of Busch Light, we got a prize to be given away today. And here's a Mad Producer. Good morning.
Good morning. Hell yeah. We've been doing this. We took your calls last week. You farmers get it. Where are you at? What are you planting? Free iHeartRadio app. How's everything going? You want to fill that fridge with Busch Light. Use up to your best 30 seconds with the microphone on the free iHeartRadio app. We play those talkbacks. One of you is going to get a prize pack at $150 today. So looking forward to hearing from you, the farmers. And, of course, thank you, Busch Light.
9 to noon continues around the corner with Vikes Bites, and I'm Paul Allen. Thank you, TimberTech. Thank you, TimberTech.com, for the What's on Deck 9 to noon. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Who dat? We dat. We 9 to noon on KFAN.
On the Fan. Vikes Bites.
9 to noon, Vikes Bites. Each and every day, nuggets on our favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings. Vikes Bites is presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets. And you can learn more at stokedbbq.com. I own a Traeger. Maybe you own a Yoder. I own a Traeger. You have a Green Mountain. You have a Pit Boss, RegTech. The list goes on. If you have a pellet grill, I've used many different kinds. Being honest with you, the all-white oak pellets, courtesy of Stoked Barbecue Pellets, stokedbbq.com, are the cleanest burning and most consistent that I've used. That's why I like them, and that's why I'm so happy that I've connected with a company out of Caledonia, Minnesota. So it's local, and they kick ass. Let's go to stokedbbq.com.
Vikes Bites.
Here they come.
I want to start here. Rookie minicamp took place just over a week ago, and now looking forward to OTAs, mixing the kids with the vets. That'll be fun. But I saw this audio. So Rick Spielman, former Vikings general manager, is now an analyst. I believe he's even employed by CBS Sports in particular. But he was on a With the First Pick podcast, and I saw this via Will Regetz, who reported on it for SI. And he noted this as being a potential steal of the draft for the purple. Listen to this.
And then probably the steal of the draft could potentially be McBride. And the only issues with McBride, there were some off-field concerns, I believe, but nothing that I heard that were off teams' boards. But the biggest issue with him was he ran the ball 350 times a game, but only caught four passes last year. So don't know what his hands are, but he's a big physical back with excellent vision that's always going forward, very productive as a runner. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at running back because they re-signed Madison. They still have Cook on the roster. They drafted Ty Chandler last year. So and now you got McBride. And so they got a bunch of running backs back there. So maybe they still plan on moving or doing something with Cook because he has such a high cap number.
So there you go, Rick Spielman, the UAB runner. Dwayne McBride, late round pick for the purple, might be the steal of the draft. Now, as he noted, as we look at OTAs and beyond PA, I think he had 5 total catches in his college career. So we can even just go back and say he didn't catch a lot last year. He's never caught the ball, or at least he wasn't asked to do with the Blazers of UAB. Got a lot of carries. Not explosive, track star, runaway speed, but he's physical and he's tough to bring down. Spielman's like, he might be the steal of the draft. What do you think of that, PA?
SOD. It's McBride. Well, you were the first to love McBride more than anybody has loved McBride. It was the
other than his parents, basically.
It was the Isaiah Pacheco 7th rounder Beach KC vibe. It's a nice non-essential clause right there. Well, this is the time of the year, May-ish and June-ish, where 9 to noon, we follow whatever crumbs are in front of us, whether they are laid out with things that were shared by the former general manager Rick Spielman, things we take in publicly or privately, or we just ride the discernment of the instincts that help us forecast and prognosticate what is coming with our favorite football team. And McBride, potential SOD, according to a former GM, that just plays into the Madison downhill bruiser, Chandler downhill one-cup bruiser, McBride. I mean, Spielman just made McBride sound like a bruising combo between the late Jim Brown and somebody like Matt Suey. But he fits into the mold that amplifies the running game while meshing with beef-eating tight end Josh Oliver. So if there are those here, but those all over the place throughout the league, specifically in the AFC North, where they got some doses and they got some hits delivered from Josh Oliver. If the vibe with the new tight end is he is the best run-blocking tight end in the NFL, well, then it doesn't behoove you to try to turn him into Travis Kelce. I mean, there are things transpiring with this running game from we're going to pound on you and bruise you with this running game, and SOD, according to former GM guy, may be part of it, and then we're going to try to throw over you with he's JJ and like Jordan Addison and maybe KJ and maybe TJ. So it's all starting to come together as the croutons are followed, leading us to what would be a chef salad sans the chef, if you know what I mean.
Vikes Bites!
How come Rick, when he was rattling off the running backs, PA, didn't mention Kenny Wanwu? Why didn't he drafted him? Fourth round, Iowa State.
Great question.
But the reason I do bring that up, NFL owners I saw this, are going to be voting on a rule change that would allow any, and I think the NFL owners meetings, by the way, are this week, and they're in Minneapolis.
Ooh, hey.
So, Goodell's going to be here. It's going to be a little bit of VIP, very much glitz and glamour.
If you figure out what hotel the owners meeting or where the location is, you will see two of the freshest Jerry Jones Dallas Cowboys buses that you've ever seen.
Spaceships.
I mean, it's Jerry and I believe his son's name is Steven.
Yeah.
They of course they fly, but when they got things like this that take place over multiple days, they like to bring their buses. Well, they like to bring their buses, but they'll also stay in hotels.
Right.
So why they need those buses?
I don't know why.
Why you need that bus, Jerry? Hot fun in the summertime, baby.
Well, and hey, there are a ton of people, there are truck drivers out there on the absolute schedule grind who are like, no, I wouldn't mind doing this. But you know that Jerry's going to fly private, but you're just driving an empty bus up from Dallas.
Yeah.
It was kind of like back in the Zimmer days. Remember, was it Zach Royce or somebody who had to drive? They had to drive Zimmer to Cincinnati, or there was something. There was some situation where it was like I think he was bringing his truck or stuff to Minnesota early on in his coaching debut.
Right.
So just had a little chill in the truck, 14-hour drive with the fresh head coach. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, the prohibitive favorite to be making that drive.
Time for two more.
Would be Bob Hagan, but it could have been an operations individual. But that's a drive from Minnesota to Ohio.
Yeah,
with Zim. I mean, if you catch Zim in the wrong mood on a drive like that, the good news is, I mean, there will be no conversation. It'd just be silent like the whole way listening to Travis Tritt.
Just a bad beat on 94, hit a pothole of some sort. Zim spills coffee on himself. Next 7 hours, complete disaster.
Vikes Bites.
It's Vikes Bites.
Yes, it is. Brought to you by Stoked Barbecue Pellets. But let me get back to the crux of it. Owners in town, etc. But they're going to be voting on a rule that would allow any fair catch on a kick return inside a team's own 25-yard line to be ruled a touchback and automatically be placed on the team's own 25-yard line. So you catch one at the 10 or... Dan Bailey, I thought, for some things that he was not great at in terms of making field goals, Dan Bailey was one of the great short kick coffin corner type bits to force the return.
Rob, what about the Greg Joseph 3-step bit?
Well, there you go. Greg Joseph. Very good at it at times, too.
Like last year, we're at Denver for a preseason game, and he's working on this 3-step pop-up with the new special teams coordinator, Matt Daniels. And the thing was the bomb.
Yeah.
So therefore, if kickers and special teams groups work so well to pop something up, get you to take the cheese, and they pin you inside the 15, if you call a fair catch, you get up to the 25?
Yep.
Negative.
Correct. All you have to do in that situation now is wave the fair catch, just like a punt, and you catch that thing, secure it, and you're getting first down and 10 at your 25. And this is kind of frustrating. Now, not only does this impact guys like Kene Nwangwu, I mean, it just the fair catch thing and the number of touchbacks is only going to increase as part of this. Why are we continuing to kill the kick and the potential of a special play? And I understand it is a rare thing, and specifically on the punt side, I've been really disappointed by the lack of punt return touchdowns and elite explosive returns in the punt game across the league the last handful of years. But specifically with the kickoff, and we had him, Cordero Patterson.
Yep.
And what that did, the electrifying part, Percy Harvin opening the 2011 season, albeit a disaster of a year, very first kickoff of the year, Percy goes 105 to the house.
But see, like when when Flashy got his first against the Bears, I believe at Soldier Field, maybe his rookie year from 99, and I told Percy back in 09, the major difference is they had a wedge. Is they had the blockers in front of them as the wedge. Can't remember how many players, but they'd look back at Flashy, And then, when he catches it, they would start edging forward.
Right.
And then due to
injuries and things
and concussion-related situations and high impact collisions in a sport designed for high impact collisions. So therefore, they jettisoned a fair amount of that.
But they changed it, so now whether it's you can't do the run up until the kick takes place.
Yeah,
they
5 on each side, which onside kicks impossible.
Correct. So they've already gone so far to neuter a potentially special play. Just freaking get rid of it then.
Yeah.
It is a waste of time if you're going to make it so impossible for a special teams play. But now we're just going to arbitrate, just in case. You never know. He could kick it out of bounds, and then they'll get it at the 40-yard line. It's ridiculous, but that's one of many things that the league will be voting on, I believe, here in Minneapolis.
Mario Chalmers for 3. Good!
Vikes Bites!
Thank you, Stoked Barbecue Pellets. Which one of these second-year cats has the most pressure on themselves to contribute and prove themselves in 2023? Now, a lot of that pressure, again, us as fans, we want all these guys to evolve into future Hall of Famers. But in terms of the context of this defense, we've painted it as land of 1,000 opportunities. Defensively, we've talked about floaters. Defensively, you're going to continue and expand on those thoughts, maybe even next segment.
What about those floaters, Nordo?
But when I look at Lewis Cine and I think about coming back from injury, certainly he's going to put pressure on himself to be able to contribute in 2023. I don't look at there, given the nature of how devastating that injury was, an immense amount of pressure on him to start and be a badass in 2023. This kid needs to get better and prove he can be on the field.
Right.
Ed Ingram makes all the games, plays all the snaps, pressure on him to be better in year 2 than he was during his rookie campaign.
Yeah.
Brian Asamoah, chance for more reps. Caleb Evans, let's keep those concussions out of the mix so the kid's head can stay healthy and he can play. Asezi Otomowa, I sometimes forgot that he was on the team.
Yeah.
And so when I'm thinking about that, Andrew Booth Jr. is really the guy that I'm pointing to. It's either Andrew Booth or it's Ed Ingram, in my opinion.
Asezi Otomowa, the second-year Gopher, as what I'm beginning to envision the B-flow, the Brian Flores defense with the hybrid 3-4 and like 2 whatever or 4-3. Otomowa has a skill set that, if he's good enough, it makes him so perfect for position flexibility, linebacker guy, defensive end guy, defensive tackle guy. If you're looking to get a little rush, huge opportunity in front of Asezi. But anyway,
like that.
Vikes Bites!
Did I clip on your last second-year guy?
No, not really. I was just looking at Andrew Booth and Ed Ingram as a couple of guys that I think there is pressure on them to, in Ingram's case, be better, and Andrew Booth be a part of this. That's how I look at that.
And with Booth, this is KFAN, your snarky, please don't take it personally leader, the fan. KFAN.com, free iHeartRadio app. Tractor Talk back now. Win a prize at the end of the show. Thank you, Busch Light. I'm not even sure Andrew Booth is a human being. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen him. I just in the hallways. I just want to make sure he's a real human being who at Clemson actually did some things that were requisite of being on a National Football League team. So for me, it's not a non-entity, but he's a non-starter for me in this big starting gate in the equation of trying to win the metaphorical Kentucky Derby, which would be the 2023 season. He's a non-starter until rep after rep after rep, OTA after OTA, minicamp, training camp after training camp, preseason after preseason. Until he gets through that, maybe he can help. I don't think you get selected where he was selected if you can't play a lick. I'm excited for the young man. I just need it proven to me he actually exists.
Vikes Bites!
These are Vikes Bites, presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets, and I got 2 more for you, including this one. The Bud Grant Memorial took place yesterday at U.S. Bank Stadium, PA. 4,000 or so people there. I think more than 4,000 were. And I was texting Rosie about it because cool honor for him, by the way. He was kind of the MC, the master of ceremony yesterday at the bank. But he said the speeches and interviews went really well. I guess the Kevin O'Connell interview was an absolute home run. Sounds like it was a very warm ode to the franchise. And, of course, you know, from my conversations with Bob Hagan and some of these people that knew him so much more than I did, I can't pretend that other than a few exchangings of pleasantries that I really connected with Bud Grant. But he is the franchise. He is purple and gold, really personified in every which way. The toughness of the franchise, the history of the franchise. And it sounds like Rosie and some of the live streaming from some news stations locally, they did Bud well yesterday at U.S. Bank.
I mean, he's HOF. He is the face of and identity thereof of one of the oldest franchises in the history of the NFL. And when it comes to things that we've discussed today, a hybrid 3-4 with floaters, a 2 with floaters, a 4-3 that morphs into a 3-3-5 trying to trick you, kickoffs that can be fair caught inside the 20. I mean, there's so many things different compared to when Bud coached, and Bud personified a meat and potatoes blue-collar approach to the game. It was highly successful, never won a Super Bowl, but nevertheless identified itself. I mean, like the Purple People Eaters or Fran the Man on the Fan, Fran Tarkenton. Those, for old and or new schoolers, those are two entities, names and or nicknames that forever will stand the test of time. And Bud Grant had a lot to do with that. May God rest his soul.
Great work by Rosie and all involved as part of the memorial yesterday at U.S. Bank.
Vikes Bites!
Does anybody have nicknames anymore, by the way? I know we brought this up a few times, but Purple People Eaters, you know, Mean Joe Green, some of these guys, the Kenny the Snake, there's just nobody anymore.
Well, tell me why.
Well, I think everyone's constipated and everything's about marketing now.
Yeah.
Everything's about you have to be spotless. You have to be this Teflon exterior, regardless of what's inside, for the sake of shucking product.
It's like Patrick Mahomes will not permit a nickname to be put on him. Say somebody wants to go with Money Mahomes. Well, he ain't going to do it unless it's sponsored by U.S. Mint. I mean, and like there's a cash tie to it, tied to the social media side. Then his brother tries to ruin the entire thing, and his wife comes to the rescue, and U.S. Mint fails to pay the $1,000 a month, and then the whole thing blows up. Unless I'm proven wrong here, the last cool nickname that we had for a collective unit in the National Football League is the Legion of Boom. With Seattle.
Oh, that was nice.
With Cam Chancellor and the safety, which is Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas?
Yeah, it was the Legion of Boom. Ain't nobody got any nicknames anymore.
Who played opposite Richards? Who played opposite Sherman? Was it Brandon Browner at one point? Does that sound right?
Yes, at one point, but it also was the L that Norv wanted to go at in the playoff game, but he's basically like, if we know he's an L, Pete knows he's an L, so he's going to cover that L with S's, known as safeties. And it was something. Was it something Hand?
I'm scrambling to find it right now.
Or Sneet, copyright charge. Deshaun Hand. That's what his name was.
Deshaun Shed. Yes.
I knew if I got Hand and Sneet and Sned together, we would get Deshaun Shed.
Between the two of us, we got it right.
I mean, and just a quick down memory lane we go. Cam Chancellor, safety for Seattle, hadn't played in a long series of games because of injury. So Uncle Norv had in his back pocket for when he absolutely needed it. In the latter stages of the game, ain't no way Cam Chancellor can possibly run as well as Cam Chancellor possibly runs, specifically in weather like that and off an injury that cost him like half the season.
Yeah.
Waited right until the last possession, identified big boy, 82 Kyle Rudolph, on Chancellor multiple times.
Yep.
Teddy got him, and we got in position. kicking to the west side of the College Stadium, and yuck.
Vikes Bites.
Let's end on this note. Pro Football Focus. They put together potential breakout players for each team in the NFL. I found the article with the NFC in particular. The breakout candidate, PA, for the Minnesota Vikings in 2023?
Yeah.
Kairos Tonga.
Oh, my gosh.
Here's what he says.
Tonga, though.
And I didn't put the name down, so I apologize. It is PFF, and it is a public article. I was able to find it. If you search just PFF breakout candidates, you'll find the name of the gentleman that actually did the work here instead of me, who's just regurgitating it. The Vikings brought the third-year defensive lineman back on a team-friendly one-year deal, but he's expected to play a big role on the Minnesota defense as a starting interior defender. While he only played 300 snaps for the Vikings in 2022, he carved out a role as their top interior run defender. His 73.3 run defense grade ranked 16th among interior defenders, and the former 7th-round pick can take another leap in his first full season as a starter in 2023. Kairos Tonga is a breakout player as we wrap up Vikes Bites presented by Smoked Barbecue Pellets. Your thoughts on Kairos Tonga being that guy?
Markedly more wiggle for a big man than I thought he had. I mean, like, Pat Williams had wiggle. Kairos Tonga has wiggle. And when big men have ballet-esque feet, like Tonga does, and they can wiggle, and they weigh like 330, 340, 350, and they can get back there and hamper situations for the offense or distract the signal caller, otherwise known as the quarterback, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing to watch. Big people with ballet-esque feet, and they got a little wiggle. They got a little wiggle, and
Are we talking about Gleeman on a Tuesday?
Kairos Tonga has wiggle, man. Now, when it comes to breakout, I'd be curious to know what the expectations are for breakout.
Well, the criteria was based on
sacks.
You know, he played 300 or fewer snaps, and kind of the idea with a starting role, that would be the breakout, that he secures that starting spot and handles his business.
Well, he'd have to start over Harrison Phillips, and I'm not sure that's going to take place. But nevertheless, little in the middle, but he's got much back. Nobody wanted Kairos. Bears brought him into the league, didn't want him. Atlanta didn't want him. Kwesi wanted him. Kwesi wanted that wiggle. And we got that wiggle with the ballet-esque feet in PFF's Minnesota Vikings defensive breakout candidate, Kairos Tonga. Don't leave home without him. Kairos plays for a Minnesota Vikings defense coordinated by Brian Flores. And while 9 to Noon and others have been dedicatedly looking at Miami Dolphins all 22 stats and down and distance scenarios to get a read on the flow that is B-flow, perhaps our focus was ill-founded. Perhaps we just need to go back to the black and gold of immortality known as the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll continue that when 9 to Noon continues on KFAN.
KFAN, The Fan.
Covenant cleanup provided by nobody. Let me give you an actual accurate weather forecast as I was up against it. I apologize. It is currently 68 degrees in Minneapolis, and you're going to get a high near 80 degrees this afternoon. So enjoy the sunshine, get those tank tops on, and party.
And I'm Dan Patrick. It's 9:50. Good morning. Love Covenant News Time, 950 in the neighborhood. Tractor Talkbacks, what you doing out there in the fields?
You want to hear one?
On the farm. Free iHeartRadio app. Drop those in. You might win a Bush Light prize back at the end of the show. And sure.
Plain, Minnesota. I'm a commute farmer headed down to southwestern Minnesota. A small town called Milroy. First time, long time. I'm heading down to finish planting. I'm going to be riding around in my John Deere 4440. Hope to finish planting this week. I'll be listening to you on iHeartRadio. Reception is strong as ever.
Oh, sweet.
Be planting corn and soybeans, and hopefully we'll finish up.
nothing runs like a deer. A commuter farmer. Does that mean you pick up the silo and the barn and the combine and the hoe and the rakes and everything that goes into farming, and you have to take it somewhere as like a commuter farmer?
Well, maybe it could be that he's well employed by a farm, but maybe he doesn't live necessarily near it. So he has tractor, will travel, will work type of guy. I'm not sure, but that 4440 got a second seat in there, and bring me along for the ride.
He's a farming hired gun, and the business card says, have hoe, will travel.
I always love that one.
That's my main man on the fan. Nothing runs like a deer. So, with the Minnesota Vikings defense, as I mentioned, Minkah Fitzpatrick, a defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's where Brian Flores was Mike Tomlin's right-hand man last year, and also the right-hand man, and to a certain extent, somebody who prepared certain facets of the Steelers defense with Terrell Austin, the current Pittsburgh Steelers defensive coordinator. So as the crumbs begin to spread out, kind of leading us to what we think potentially could be some form of a promised land with the Minnesota Vikings defense and under new tutelage with some new players. The crumbs originally were heading in the direction of glitzy South Beach. Then all of a sudden there was a stiff wind. Perhaps a commuter farmer, have hoe, will travel, caught wind of the crumbs, and all of a sudden they headed north up the eastern shore to Pennsylvania, specifically Pittsburgh, where Brian Flores was last year. So with Flores, when attempting to indulge or learn more about what he likes as much as he likes anything he's ever liked, the destinations and the tells and the takes and the talkers can be found whence he started with Belichick and the New England Patriots. Also, when he was a head coach and orchestrated and called defensive plays with the Miami Dolphins, but of late, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So perhaps the prisoner of the moment appeal to that's what's most frequent, that's what's the easiest to figure out because we just saw it. Maybe that's the low hanger, and therefore maybe it will not unfurl a majority of the nuance to answers to these questions that we covet. And, when training camp rolls around and you have a joint practice or joint practices, or you're just like going against Cuzbuzz in that offense, there's absolutely no way will we learn the nuance of a 3-4 hybrid with players who float. We call them floaters. With thousands of people in the stands, and on this big, beautiful, high definition screen they have in what's known as the TCO Stadium. I mean that the plays and everything are shown there. So they're just the level of competitive balance or the competitive nature or the at times devious nature of the adversary, that those are things to a man and to an individual, executives, personnel people, and coaches always think about just down to the finest point. If somebody was videotaping what we're showing here on the high definition screen in TCO Stadium, they might be able to get a better feel for what Beef Flow is trying to do with this 3-4 hybrid and floaters, and maybe the floater is Jay Ward. So in all of that, the crumbs will lead us to a feel, but we won't get to the meal for which we are looking until the Tampa Bay game. But Minkah Fitzpatrick with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 6 interceptions, 1 to the end zone last year. As I mentioned, couple of segments ago, the question, how did that happen, is a very key part of this equation. 6 interceptions for an individual in the secondary for a Steelers defense that played nearly half its season without its best defensive player, TJ Watt. Now, that's another fascinating item or facet to what we're getting at here with what Flores learned not only from Belichick, not only running the Fins, but with Mike Tomlin and the style of defense they ran, running up interceptions, sacks, and tackles for loss without their best defensive player, TJ Watt. Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith combined for 24.5 sacks for Tomlin, Austin, and Flores defense. The question, where do we get those from like 2 guys here? Major part of the equation, especially if one of them is not Danielle Hunter. We'll continue to pay this off a couple of segments from now, but it's a Monday, which means McTockett is here to discuss some hockey-related items, including a Ryan Suter turnover that led to an overtime game winner for Vegas and Suter melting in the locker room after the game.